Hello, Travis Simlinger here from Progressive Coaching, located in Zurich, Switzerland, and today I'm excited to walk you through the ABC model, which is a foundational framework of cognitive behavioural therapy. Now, the ABC model is absolutely vital, a vital component of reducing the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and in fact all kinds of mental health challenges, chronic stress, constant negative thoughts. These types of manifestations can be dramatically reduced using this model. And I'm going to walk you through it now. So without further ado, I will share my screen and let's take a look. Okay, so what we have here is the ABC model. And you'll see here activating event or adversity, current consequences, desired consequences, beliefs and thoughts, eradicate dysfunctional thinking, and form new effective philosophy. And what I want you to do is forget about all that at the moment, because what I want you to understand is that I don't want you to be overwhelmed with this model and think, oh, every time I have a negative emotion or a negative thought, I've got to fill this out. And I mean, that's not practical. And it's another thing I have to do, more work, and I'm already stressed. No, that's not the case. What we do is we train this model. We practice this, once per week or something in coaching. And what happens is very quickly we learn to reset our default mode. People with depression and anxiety have a current negative default mode. Their thoughts are negative, and that's what's driving their negative emotions and leading to dysfunctional outcomes in their life, which goes back on to influence their thinking. This helps to reset that. In fact, this model is necessary to help to reset that, because this targets the thoughts, and the thoughts are the premise for the emotions and behaviors. The thoughts are what is leading to the dysfunctional outcomes. So what I want to do is go through this now step by step, slowly, and let's start with activating event or adversity. So real world example, a person came to me a few weeks back, let's call him John, and he had a problem, he told me, and his problem was he lost his job because of coronavirus. And the consequences of that were that he felt very stressed and very depressed. And you can see the other emotions there. I asked him out of 100%, how strong were these emotions? So you can see very high level of stress and depression. These emotions led to certain physiological sensation. Big cortisol dump often ends in fatigue. And that is exactly what happened, isn't it? He laid in bed all day feeling terrible. He had an argument with his wife, caused her stress. So here's the $1 million question. What caused all of these current consequences? And it's not A. It's not the activating event or adversity. I recommend writing this down because it will serve you very well. What actually caused John's current consequences were the meaning he attached to the event, what he decided to focus on, his thoughts, and at the deepest level, his beliefs. In short, we feel the way we think. This is incredibly liberating because we can't control this, but we can control the B, our beliefs and thoughts, once we learn how to do that. And that's what the rest of this model is going to show us how to do. The formula is not A equals C. The formula is A times B equals C. So, for example, I asked John, well, when you were feeling these, when you were laying in bed all day after you had the argument with your wife and you were feeling these, negative, unhealthy emotions, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking? And he told me, what am I going to do now? My life is ruined. And how much did you believe that, John, at the time? Oh, 100%. What else was going through your mind? How am I going to tell anyone about this, that I'm a failure? I got fired. It's so embarrassing. And you believe that 100%. I want to be a good husband and father, and I'm failing. Physically, financially, emotionally. Everything is falling apart and it's driving me crazy. This stupid coronavirus. Why can't everything just go back to normal already? How much do you believe that, John, or how much did you believe that, John, at the time? And it was 95%. So now we can see things a bit more clearly. Now these high levels of negative emotion make a lot more sense. When this is the script you're reading in your mind, what am I going to do now? My life is ruined. It's so embarrassing. I'm failing at everything. It's driving me crazy. Then it's very understandable that you experience these stress and depression and anger and like a failure. It makes sense. But it's not helping at all. It's leading to outcomes that we don't want, or that John didn't want, laying in bed all day, arguing with his wife. How do I know that he didn't want these? Because I asked, well, what do you actually want, John? What's your D, your desired outcome? And he told me, well, he'd prefer to be calm and balanced and centered, rational and intelligent, and show leadership in his family. He'd rather feel calm, have relaxed breathing and posture instead of the tension that he was feeling. What would you like to have happen? What would the ultimate outcome be of this, John? Well, I'd like to remain calm and be an emotional role model for my young children. I would like to be proactive and use this challenge as an opportunity to get an even better job. Okay, well, you cannot achieve that, John, with this current thinking. It's not possible, but it is absolutely possible, or you're going to dramatically increase your chances of making this desired consequence manifest if you eradicate and get rid of this thinking that is causing these negative emotions and these dysfunctional behaviors and outcomes. Well, that sounds great. It sounds great, Trav. How the heck do I do that? Well, here we go. E, eradicate dysfunctional thinking. Now, what are all these? These are cognitive distortions. And what cognitive distortions are, these are the top 12. They're ways that our brains trick us. They trick us into believing things that are not actually true. And I've got lots of videos on these, but I will show you very quickly exactly what I mean with, let's use this example. So what am I going to do now? My life is ruined. And he believed this 100%. Well, this is actually black and white thinking. Now, black and white thinking is a false dichotomy. It's when we think something is either perfect or it's a complete failure. And this is what John is doing here. He's saying, it's a complete failure. My life is ruined because I no longer have a job. Is that really true? That your whole life is ruined because of this one part of your life, your job? You don't have this anymore? It's not actually true. Your whole life isn't ruined. You've just lost your job. You can get another job. It's overgeneralizing, saying that because this bad event happened in one area of your life, your financial area, your financial domain, because something happened there, or your career, you're saying that now it's spilled over into your whole job, which isn't, into your whole life, which isn't actually true. It's an overgeneralization. It's catastrophizing, making this into a huge catastrophe when it doesn't need to be. It may not be what you want it to happen. It may be not good at all. It might be really bad, but you're making it worse than it is. It's not helping. You're deleting any positives of the situation, because there can be positives in many situations that you may not think there could be a positive in. What am I going to do now? My life is ruined. What could be some positives of losing your job? Well, he said he didn't like his job very much anyway, so there's an opportunity to get a better job, Could be a better paying job out there. There could be a better job, better conditions, better people that he's going to meet. He's deleting all of these possibilities and focusing primarily on just the negative, and that this inaccurate thought that his life is completely ruined. What am I going to do is implying that he can't do anything. What am I going to do? Oh my God, helpless victim. Assuming the worst, assuming that he's not going to, be able to do anything about this and that his whole life is ruined. Letting something outside of his control dictate how he feels and therefore how he responds. And after we went through all of this, I asked him the question. That's what this % after is referring to. I asked him the question, how much do you believe this thought now out of 100%? And he said, wow, when I go through it like this and actually critique it in this framework, and with a little bit of coaching, he come to understand that this thought was not actually true. His whole life is not actually ruined. There are still many parts of his life which are fantastic. So his life is not ruined. So it's not true. It's an inaccurate thought. And inaccurate thoughts lead to this type of dysfunctional, unhealthy emotions and behaviours. Okay, so we do that with the rest of his thoughts. So we went through this one. How am I going to tell anyone? It's so embarrassing. Had plenty of cognitive distortions there, and we got that down to 0% as well. And the same thing with the last thought that really spiraled, didn't it? It went from I lost my job and it spilled over to every area. I'm failing physically, financially, emotionally, everything, which is what often happens because each thought becomes the premise for the next thought. So if this thought isn't actually true and it's negatively biased, it becomes the premise for the next thought, and it becomes the foundation that we build our next thought on. And before you know it, we've created a big disaster for ourselves, which was created not by the event, but by our thinking. Very interesting. We got that one down to 0% as well. So then what we do, now that we've got rid of the thought and we've realized it's not actually true, well, what is actually true? What is actually true, John? Let's go through them one at a time. What am I going to do now? My life is ruined. John doesn't believe that anymore. What is actually true? And he told me this. Actually, now that I really critique my thinking, I've come to realize my life is far from ruined. The situation is not 100% bad. It is actually quite exciting and a wake-up call to not just take things as they are for granted. I can use this situation as motivation to find a better job. I might even look for work with reduced hours so I can spend more time with my kids. How much do you believe that, John, that your life is far from ruined? And how much do you believe this thought? 100% is what he told me. Now, I hope you can understand that I'm explaining it clearly enough and doing this model justice, because the emotion and that you will feel from this new effective philosophy is polar opposites to what you will feel from an experience from thinking like this. And remember that each thought that creates this emotion creates the outcome. The outcome goes back on to influence our next stream of thoughts and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's very, very easy to create a negative downward spiral. But once we learn how to critique our thinking at this level, it's also easy to create an upward spiral, because this different emotion, this different thought creates a different emotion, creates a different outcome, which then goes on to influence our next thoughts and our beliefs. Okay, how am I going to tell anyone about this, that I'm a failure? So embarrassing. If I feel embarrassed, it's only because I have a rule, a self-imposed rule that says I should feel embarrassed about this. How ridiculous. I will change that rule right now. I'm actually proud that I am handling this situation with grace. And I know my wife is also proud of me. John believed that 100%. And the big finale, remember, he was failing at everything, he said, and everything was falling apart. What's actually true, John? Everything is not falling apart. That is just lazy thinking, which produces dysfunctional outcomes. I was made redundant like millions of other people in this time of great change. This is not everything. I have an amazing, healthy family. I have food on the table, a roof over my head, and I have savings in the bank. I'm one of the lucky ones. I am so grateful to have won the geographic lottery and live in a country where I have the opportunity to be rewarded for my efforts financially, and thus provide everything my family needs. I will take a couple of days to rest and reset, do some soul searching, and decide on my next course of action. This is exciting. So this kind of thinking dramatically increases the chances of John's desired outcomes being the result or manifesting. And this line of thinking basically guarantees that you're going to experience these types of emotions. So now that we have the knowledge, we can make a choice. If we don't know this type of information, it's terrible that we're not taught this information at school. Because a lot of people suffer because they don't understand how they can take control of their thinking and their emotions and their behaviors. And this model gives us a framework which shows us exactly how to do that. So just to recap, we had the activating event and the current consequences. And that's as far as it goes for many people, but it's not actually the case. A does not equal C. Our beliefs and thoughts are what create C, not the A. A's are inevitable. Life is just a series of A's, but it's our beliefs and thoughts that shape our emotional life. And where we live emotionally is our life. It's how we experience our reality. And we ask, well, what do we actually want? What are our desired outcomes? We eradicate dysfunctional beliefs and thoughts, which are creating consequences that we don't want. And then we form a new effective philosophy to increase the chances of our desired consequences happening, or at the very bare minimum, getting rid of negative consequences that are uncomfortable and experiencing positive emotions which increase the chances or lead us to take positive action. And we must condition it until established. So we practice this model. We have to, just like learning any new skill, it takes practice. We practice it in between sessions, not in the heat of battle. So we can, when we are in the heat of battle, we've got the new default mode there. It's our new normal. It's changing the way we are processing information. Okay, changing the inputs to directly affect our outputs. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope that was helpful. It's helpful for many people that I work with in coaching. It helped me many years ago when I had my own mental health challenges, and I know it will help and work for you as well. Please don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe if that video was helpful. I've got many more coming, and I wish you a great day as always. Cheers.